Hey everybody, this is Robert from Black Belt Gaming. I hope you're doing well. What you're seeing here is Fantasy Grounds, not the Dungeon Master mode. This is managing characters. I thought what I would do tonight is talk about a game that I'm actually playing in. I'd say over the past 10 to 12 years, I've played in just a few games as a player. And those were play-by-post games or play-by-email due to me moving to Japan. So actually playing in a face-to-face game or any kind of live game just hasn't been possible for me except as a Dungeon Master, because I have run lots of, some 4th edition for my students, and I've messed around a little bit with 5th edition once here on Fantasy Grounds, but as a DM just for a few sessions. So this is really the first chance I've had to play as a player in just a very long time. I found some guys that are in my time zone. They were looking for another player. I decided to join, and we are playing through a 5th edition module called The Curse of Strahd. So this must be some sort of Ravenloft-like game. I've never played through the module, even back when Ravenloft came out years ago. I have a really good book for 2nd edition. I think it's called Domains of Dread. And I've read some of that, but anyway, this is basically all new to me. So what you see here is a part of the program where you can create your own character, and the D&D material is now officially licensed with Fantasy Grounds, so you can use it. For example, right over here, I can open up the player's handbook, and as I was making this character, it was suggested that we make human characters. I think maybe all of us are human. And I chose to make a cleric. So this kind of gives me the same text that you'd find in the hardback book, and it kind of helps you carry you through the character creation process. I can actually make this bigger, like this, and it tells me my hit points, proficiencies, starting equipment, and other features that my character has. So I made the character here on Fantasy Grounds. I didn't write it out in pencil and paper first. I just went directly here and made the character. We had a character creation session. We all got together using this program. This program is text-based, so there's a chat window where you can type, and everything you type, can come up here. But we're using a software called TeamSpeak, maybe specifically TeamSpeak 3. It doesn't give us a picture like a Hangout or a Skype version does, so I don't think it's quite as demanding on your computer, but it does allow you to hear each other, so that's nice. Anyway, let's take a look at my character. Made a level 1. This is not the final version. One thing you might have noticed right away is his intelligence. 4. The Dungeon Master for this campaign wanted to challenge us to roleplay a character who had a pretty big weakness. So there was all kinds of different numbers listed that we could choose from, but we had to take them in the order that they were listed. It was a neat little chart he came up with. So this particular set of numbers was going to give me a decent strength and constitution and wisdom, and that's really what I wanted to try to get. I wasn't too worried about dexterity. I even debated having my lowest score dexterity, but some of the other areas were going to be lower too, and I kind of wanted to keep my strength, constitution, and wisdom as high as I could get them. So I ended up with a 4 in intelligence. Now, I'll go ahead and jump to the spoiler here, which is I ended up not using this set of characteristics, these ability scores. We actually ended up using the default array or kind of the standard ability scores right out of the player's handbook. So my intelligence ended up still being low, but it was twice what it is here. So it was an 8 instead of a 4. Anyway, below average. So I was wondering, how could I roleplay this disability? This why am I below average in intelligence? And I was trying to keep it open so I could also explain why I might be low in dexterity, because I was debating which one to go with for the low score. So we've got our Cleric and Acolyte. I chose the human variant, which a normal human in 5th edition gets +1 to each ability score. The human variant doesn't. You get +1 in 2 different abilities, and then you get a feat and a skill and some other things. So I decided to go with that. Anyway, you see my skills here. I went with religion, and it may have been religion and insight came along with my Acolyte background, but I also chose medicine and perception and persuasion. I don't think I have anything else. This +5 modifier here is not going to be true for active checks. It's just for passive perception. That's why my passive perception is so high at 20. It's because of a feat I took, which is observant. And the observant feat says that you increase your wisdom by 1, which is what I wanted. And you can kind of read a mouth if somebody's speaking and kind of interpret what they're saying. And you have a +5 to your passive perception and intelligence checks, or scores. So it's kind of interesting that my passive ability is higher than my active ability. And I was also thinking about how I could fit that in with the low intelligence. So what I decided to do was to go with my character being lawful good, a follower of, and I did a little research in the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. Yeah. And looked up Ilmater, which is a god of healing. And I went with the life domain. I have faith in the god. I was rescued by a priest who took me in after I was struck by lightning and almost killed. So here's where I tried to describe my flaws. Instead of just taking a standard one out of the book, I kind of wrote this up and said that having been struck by lightning, my character suffers from some memory loss, confusion, and paranoia. This paranoia helps boost his passive perception. He's always looking around for trouble. But his accident also interferes with his ability to reason, make sense of things, remember things. So therefore, I thought it would make sense to affect his intelligence, at least as far as how they're connected to certain skills. So during thunderstorms, anytime there's lightning and such, he becomes either frightened or acts like a crazy person and goes out and screams at the sky and challenges the lightning to do their worst. And he's rather intolerant of storm faiths or any kind of spells or other things that use lightning. And he is scarred from the incident. He's got some damage visible on the side of his face and on one side of his body and down his arm. So, as we were making our characters, another character being made was a sorcerer who had some sort of witch bolt, which was kind of a lightning spell. And we knew that was going to set off my cleric in one way or another, if and when he decided to use that. So we were headed for some interesting situations there. The character sheet kind of automatically calculated a lot of this for me. Got my crossbow, my mace. I chose these spells, and I'm going to need to change Spare the Dying because the Dungeon Master has a set of house rules regarding death. Instead of the standard thing where you drop to 0 hit points and you need to make these death saves, he has a system in place where he rolls some, he calls them damage dice, I think. And different classes roll different dice. I think fighters, of course, are more resistant to this injury than, say, wizards and sorcerers. So I'm kind of in the middle as a cleric. And I do know now exactly, I can't say exactly, but I do know now how these dice work, because as I jump now to tell you a little bit about the adventure, my character has already basically faced death twice. So Ravenloft seems to be a pretty rough place. Instead of Spare the Dying, I might switch this out to maybe Light or something like that, because it's quite a dark and foggy place. So, another spoiler alert here. If you're going to be playing through the Curse of Strahd, or you don't want to know this information about it, you may want to shut off the video here, because I am going to talk about at least what we've gone through so far, and we're not that far into it at all. And on the other hand, I would also appreciate if you wouldn't spoil it for me, because I really don't know what's going to come up next. So, moving on, here we go. Our characters, there was a rogue, a fighter, a sorcerer, and my cleric. We were in this tavern, and we've already bonded by doing some adventuring together. That was kind of the setup, just to move us forward quickly. We were there in this tavern, and this strange man comes, and he said he's delivering us a message, and he gives us this letter. It talks about some woman that's been wounded, and she suffers from some strange illness, and he needs our help. Anyway, the guy offers payment for our services to come and help and find out what's wrong with her and see if we can help her. And then the messenger leaves, and as we're sitting around talking about what we're going to do, some wolves crash through the windows or run in the door, and they start attacking us. In fact, it comes straight to me first, and I get attacked by a wolf. He hits me for 7 points of damage. I think my current version of the cleric doesn't have 11 hit points. He has 10. So I was already down to 3 hit points left after one attack, and I was dropped prone. So this thing had clamped onto my leg and was pulling and shaking. And I think the sorcerer and the fighter really stepped up and took care of this thing. But in the end, I was able to stand up and crush its skull with my mace. So we defeated the wolves. We decided to rest up for the night. I said a few prayers of healing, got myself back up to full HP, and we took off the next day, following the path that the messenger said we should take. So we followed the path. We entered a set of gates, and then everything became very quiet and foggy. We kept walking down the road, and then there was, due to my passive perception score being so high, I was detecting a strong smell and sense of death off to the left side of the road. Well, I'm kind of going to show my age here, because I actually saw this in the movie theater. It was a movie called The American Werewolf in London. And it's a werewolf movie that, at the time, I think had some breakthrough special effects going. Not the CGI stuff that you see these days. And there were 2 hitchhikers going along, and they find out about some curse of the werewolf, and they're told, stay on the road, don't get off the road, and stay out of the moonlight. And so that's pretty much what we were trying to do. So we really knew something bad was going on off to the left side of the road, but we were kind of too afraid to leave the main path. So we decided, even though we smelled something terrible over there, we sensed something very bad over there, we just decided to keep moving. So I don't know what was over there. I don't know if it was good or bad, Maybe there was a huge pile of treasure left on a battlefield or something. I have no idea. But the fighter said he didn't want to walk into a horde of zombies, so we kept going. We came to a little village, and it was described as there was really nobody around. The streets were kind of empty. The windows were closed. Everything was very quiet. There was a little bit more life in the environment than where the sense of death was before. So it was a little lighter, a little brighter. I think we could hear some birds around. In the other place, it was just silent. So we hear a child crying. We come up upon a brother and a sister. The sister's actually older. The little brother is crying. We start to talk to him to find out what's the matter. And he tells us that there's a monster in his house. It's in the basement, and his parents are there. And he says that the baby is upstairs, and he's worried about the situation and can we help. So we tell the children to wait there. We go to investigate. Now, don't ask me why we didn't just go in the front door. I don't know. But our fighter wanted to scale the side of the house and go in through the second floor window. He actually wanted to climb up all the way to the top to see if he could find the baby. But I think he was afraid of falling, so he climbed up one floor, found an open window, went in there and dropped a rope down. Now, our rogue or our thief probably could have made the climb even easier, could have probably even climbed up to the top, but he's in China, and there was something about his internet, and he lost his connection, and that was too bad. So we lost a player for the rest of that evening. But we waited for him a little while, and then we just the dungeon master said, let's just move on. So we ended up all climbing up the rope onto the second floor, and we started to check things out. And things were going fine until my cleric walked by a suit of armor on a rack. And the armor sprang to life and attacked us. And it hit me hard. It hit me so hard, I think it brought me to 0 HP in one hit. I went down, and he rolled some dice, or he actually had me roll the dice, and he told me what the result was, and said that I had suffered a nasty bruise on my shoulder and had been knocked back, and I was down to 1 hit point. So I was still in the fight. So the sorcerer and the fighter were going at this armor. I said a prayer of healing, got myself back up to full hit points again, engaged this thing, tried to hit it with my mace, and it hit me again, I think with a spear to the boot, and pierced my leg, dropped me again. I would have been making death saves a second time. Rolled the dice, and evidently I rolled high, which was bad, and I got some sort of injury. So I have some sort of injury to my foot, which now reduces my speed until it's healed. So I don't know how the chart works and all, but it's a pretty neat system, and I'm kind of grateful that the DM's done this, or I would have just already been out of the game twice. So we defeat this armor. The sorcerer is the one that kind of froze it solid with a ray of frost or something. We take a rest. I think what I did there was I had 1 hit dice because I'm level 1, and during the rest I rolled that, and that plus my constitution modifier was how many hit points I could recover. So it wasn't a great roll. It was sort of an average roll. I did recover maybe a little more than half of my hit points. We continued to explore this mansion, this haunted mansion, and we found, I think, some jewelry, lots of art and statues and other things. Haven't found the baby yet, and I don't think we've heard anything from downstairs. But we came to this closet, and a broom ambushed the fighter. A broom. And this thing was vicious. It actually dropped our fighter. So I think he would have also been making death saves against this broom. But he did a second wind or something and was getting up to his feet again and was using his scimitars on this broom. The cleric, not the cleric, the sorcerer shot a witch bolt, which was some sort of form of lightning spell, freaked out my cleric, but was burning up the broom. They managed to destroy it. So now the fighter's been downed. The cleric's been nearly killed twice. So finally the sorcerer, who's been doing really well in combat, and the fighter has been too, but the sorcerer decides to take the lead, leads us into the next area. We may have gone up a floor or something, and we find the crib, and we're starting to look for the baby, and then this ghostly skeletal wraith or ghost or something appears, and it's like the nanny's ghost, and it says, "You won't take my baby," and it screams at us and attacks. And I think it gets its bony hands around the throat of the sorcerer and is draining the life from him, and he has to make some sort of save. I remember he got badly wounded, but he made some sort of save that I think would have resulted in his death. We all attack. I think I'm throwing a sacred flame at this thing. I may have hit once. And the fighter and the sorcerer are really doing the most attack damage to it. And they manage to destroy it. I think it was maybe the fighter who had the final blow with his scimitars. But we survived that encounter, and that's where we were going to stop for the evening. The dungeon master said we had now accumulated enough experience points to go up to level 2, and when we meet for our next session, we could go through the leveling up process. And I think that's when I'm going to switch that cantrip out from Spare the Dying to something else, because right now Spare the Dying is just not going to do anything because we don't follow the standard rules for that. But that's what I've been playing with so far. The group of guys seems pretty good. And, groups like this, you never know how long they'll be able to last and stay together. But it's been really good to play with people again. And it's been a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to what's next. It's certainly tough. And we'll see if we can get through the rest of this mansion. Or maybe we ought to run out of there and get out of there as fast as we can. Anyway, just wanted to tell you about what was going on. I appreciate you listening. And thanks for watching, everybody. I'll catch you later. Maybe I'll do another update sometime. Take care.